Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Beekeeping for Newbees. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I sincerely appreciate you being here. And I definitely want to thank you for all of the kind reviews and the great emails I've gotten lately. I've been truly humbled and I really appreciate everything everybody has said and sent. And I certainly enjoy chatting with everyone about their lives and their bee journeys and all that good stuff. But as always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. It's just jeff@beekeepingfornewbies.com. And don't forget to reach us on all of our social media platforms here, which our special guest today will tell you all about. Okay, so let's jump right in here and talk about some quick updates on the apiary. I don't have a whole lot of excitement to report there. I think with so many people coming into town for visits and kind of catching up with old friends, and the deal falling through with the other commercial guy here in Virginia on the colonies that he was supposed to be providing for me this spring, all those things together has sort of reduced the sense of urgency to get things done down there since I didn't have all those colonies coming in. But I do still have some colonies here at the house. I will be relocating them down there to the property here as we get things prepped over the coming weeks. Last thing at the property there, I would say I discovered that the bear fence that I bought, the Energizer, is powered by a regular electric plug. It's not designed for a direct connection into a battery, which is kind of what I really need since I'm running it off a solar panel. So I'll either need to wire it to an inverter or buy another one. At this point, I'm thinking I'll just go ahead and just buy another one that's designed to be connected directly to a battery. I feel like having an extra fence energizer around could come in handy for something. I think it's one of those great SHTF kind of things to have laying around. You never know when you might have to energize a fence for whatever reason. So anyway, I'll hold on to the other one and I'll buy a new one. On the honeybee side of things, actually the things that people probably care about and want to hear about versus the mess going on at my property, my bees right now are cranking through about 20 to 25 pounds of sugar. Now that's, of course, mixed up at a 2-to-1 concentration, but they're going through about 20 to 25 pounds of sugar in the feeders every day right now. They're just killing it. I do owe all the colonies an inspection because we fairly recently did some work, and our special guest will be talking about that today. And we'll have more on that here shortly. A couple of quick follow-ups. If you remember from last week or the last episode, we talked briefly about a situation going on with a young lady here in Virginia, Bristol, Virginia. This is Kimberly. She had a challenge going on with some foul brood. Wasn't really sure if it was European or American. Had a couple of a little bit of email dialogue back and forth with her. We were going to try and get an interview set up this week, and it's 100% my fault. I've just got too much going on right now, but we are going to be getting that going next week, and I will have her on the next episode to kind of talk through everything, and she'll walk us through what she saw, her course of action. I think it's one of those things where she really did everything right. I mean, she reached out to the right people, engaged all the resources that she could, and I think it's a great learning opportunity for everybody. So we will definitely get her on the next episode here and see what all she has to say. So looking forward to hearing from her. One more news item I'd kind of like to throw your way here. Now, this is something that is specific to Virginia beekeepers. Virginia has a program. It's referred to as the Beehive Distribution Program in Virginia. Now, I'm going to read this to you kind of as they've published it, and then I'll add in some of my own kind of color commentary here. But this program provides equipment directly to eligible individuals for the construction of new beehives. Residents of the Commonwealth of Virginia who are 18 years of age or older at the time of the application, or at the time the application is submitted, are eligible to receive up to 3 beehive units per year. Multiple individuals residing in the same household may submit an application. However, no more than 3 beehive units per household will be distributed. Beehive equipment received through the program must be assembled and occupied with a colony of honeybees within 1 year of receiving the equipment. Honeybees and equipment to manage beehives, such as personal safety equipment and honey processing equipment, are not provided through the program. Individuals receiving beehive units are encouraged to enter their apiary location in the BeeCheck mapping system. This is VA, this is Victor Alpha .BEE check, CHECK.org, O-R-G. And I guess that's a tracking system they have to kind of, just see where things are. I'm not a part of that, never looked at it, and have no idea what that does. But As far as this program goes, here's my personal opinion. Oh, and real quick here, they also have some additional information. For further information, contact the Office of Plant Industry Services by phone at 804-786-3515 or email. We'll do this phonetically here at Victor Alpha Bravo Echo Echo Sierra at Victor Delta Alpha Charlie Sierra .Virginia.gov, G-O-V, or Golf Oscar Victor. Okay, that's all the contact info for them. So here's my opinion on this one, right? I think that everybody who's been in Virginia for more than a week knows that you're paying enough money in taxes already. They're collecting plenty of tax revenue from you. If you can get a couple of free beehives from them, I say, why not? You know, as my dad used to say, free. It's my favorite 4-letter word. So take advantage of it, apply for it, tell your friends about it. I mean, they will have a limited number that they'll be able to provide, but give it a shot, right? And it says up to 3 colonies per year. Keep in mind, this does not include the actual bees themselves. You will need to get a package of bees. You will need to get a nuke, which is what I would recommend. You need your protective gear, your hive tools, your smoker, all these other things that you still need. So don't forget about that. So I think that's a pretty cool program. I don't know if this is being done in other states or other parts of the country. If it is, by all means, please let me know. I'm happy to plug this for anyone or any other locality, municipality, or any other state, because obviously this is great education and things that people can make use of and hopefully get more people engaged and more people involved in beekeeping. So don't hesitate to pass that info along if you happen to have it. Now, without further ado here, I'm going to jump in and we'll do the interview with my guest today. So I knew that my guest was going to be committed this evening to a babysitting gig that she has. So I pre-recorded this, but we'll play it right now and then we'll come back to you in just a second. All right, everybody, and welcome back. We've got the Phoebe Beekeeper here with us this evening. Phoebes, good evening. How are you?
Hi, I'm pretty good.
Outstanding. All right. Well, we wanted to bring Phoebe on today to catch up on a couple things and some recent activity we've had going on through the yard here. First off, how's the summer going?
Pretty good. Just hanging out with family, doing a little bit of traveling.
Okay. All right. Traveling anywhere exciting? I heard you mention something about France and Europe earlier. Is that still a go or?
Yes.
I don't think it is. We'll play along. Okay. So Phoebe is not going to France or Europe for the record. All right. So we did some stuff here in the yard and we were trying to manage the heat and the way, of course, that the bees are responding to the heat. Typically what I do is I actually do this usually around early to mid-June. This year there was just too much going on. I didn't get to it. So it was a little bit late. But Phoebes, if you wouldn't mind, just take a minute here. Walk us through kind of what we did here with our colonies here at the house.
So we went up to our nukes, and then we just kind of did a quick inspection, made sure everything was doing okay inside the hive. And then we slid the nuke over and placed the screen bottom board and then a deep hive body. And then we took the frames from the nuke and put them back into the deep.
Okay. All right. No, that's good. That's good. So one thing to kind of keep in mind, folks, is we were running 4 and 5 frame nukes. So we had some of them that were, too high. So maybe, 2 4-frame nukes for a total of 8 frames. We had, I think one of them was 3 5-frame nukes for 15. So essentially, if we had in that example 15 frames, we put it into 2 deeps. And then we just added in a couple more, frames of wax foundation and left it at that. Now, what else did we add on the tops of those, Phoebes?
We had vented tops.
The vented tops. Awesome. So, folks, you've heard me talk about these many, many times before, but just kind of a recap, especially for anybody who's new. This is basically, it's a hive component. It's about 3 to 4 inches high. It has 3 holes in the front, 3 holes in the back, I think 4 or 5 on the sides. These are probably about 1-inch holes that are drilled through with hardware cloth over them. This allows a lot of the heat inside the hive to come up and escape through the top. This is the exact same vented top that I use to overwinter. I fill that same cavity with foam insulation. Does a great job of absorbing the moisture and keeping the heat in. I've had tremendous success with those. So that's all good stuff there. Phoebes, with all that work that we did there, do you notice anything different? Do you feel like there are fewer bees outside the hives now, or do you think it's about the same? What are you seeing outside?
I'm definitely seeing a lot more bees inside the hive. than before, which is good.
Good. Okay, awesome. Now, not everybody has access to multiple, surplus components, right? Not everybody has screen bottom boards. Not everybody has these vented tops. So throw out maybe one or two ideas if you can think of anything that might help somebody who wants to add some level of ventilation or space, but doesn't have any of these extra components.
One option would be a slatted rack, which goes in between the bottom board and your first hive body.
Okay.
Which provides a little bit of ventilation.
Gotcha. Okay, so it provides a little bit of a gap, a little bit of a space kind of separation between the two, a little more airflow there.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Anything else you can think of?
Another option would be drilling holes in some places inside the hive body.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second real quick. Now, I've done this before. I've had a couple of hive components, particularly some older nukes that I've put together, where there's a hole there that's there year round. The thing to keep in mind is that when you drill those holes into that hive body and you cover it up with hardware cloth, it's a permanent hole. Now, the bees can go in there and they can propolize things shut, and they will close that up if they want to, if they have the ability to get that done. But what I would say is if you're going to drill any holes into those hive components, keep in mind that it's a lot easier for you to just cover it up for them as it starts to get cooler than it is to make them have to go and propolize the whole thing. What I recommend is take a screw, or you can use a nail, but screws kind of work a little bit better. Take a block of wood. It doesn't have to be that thick, but go just above, put the block of wood over the hole, and you can kind of almost do it like a diamond where you'd have the, like the top and the bottom would be kind of elongated. And up near the top, you can put a screw right through that. And now it is like a pivoting and swiveling door that you can swivel up to have it open to allow ventilation, and you can swivel it down closed to keep it closed in the wintertime. Again, this is not something I would do across all my colonies if I had 15, 20, or 100 colonies. But one or two here and there, if you just need a little extra ventilation, really a great idea for nukes and some of your smaller hive components. So awesome. So Phoebes, we know that we are still in the dearth. We are feeding. Any special considerations here at this time of year? We're coming up on, we're probably 3 to 4 weeks away from the fall flow kicking in, which is absolutely insane to think that we're this close to the fall flow. But what kind of things might you be thinking about, or you want some of the listeners to think about as we're going into, as we are still in this dearth and we're supplemental feeding? What kinds of considerations should people be keeping in mind right now?
Well, this time of year, robbing is not uncommon, so I'd just say keep an eye on your entrance reducers. A hive can handle having just a small opening, maybe about an inch or half an inch.
Yeah, I think on most of the commercially bought entrance reducers, I think they're going to the smallest one's about 3/4 of an inch or something like that. And that's enough room for one bee to be going in, one going out at the same time. So that's plenty of space. But yeah, in that the smallest entrance or even the larger 2 to 3 inch, one should be fine. But like Phoebe said, right, keep an eye on those because, robbing does happen quite a bit at this time of year. And especially if you're supplemental feeding or if you're doing any feeding inside the colony through frame feeders and things, the bees and other things that are outside the colony can smell that sugar syrup. And if you have a weaker colony with a large entrance, they may very well go in and start robbing them out. So definitely good info. Well, Phoebes, I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer and your travel through Europe and wherever else you're going to go. And we will look forward to having you back here sometime soon. Maybe we can get you in at least one more time before school starts. What do you think?
Definitely.
Outstanding. Ladies and gentlemen, Phoebe Beekeeper, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you later. All right. So that was the Phoebe Beekeeper, my good friend and partner in the beekeeping world here. So thanks, Phoebe. I really appreciate you coming on and being a part of the show today with everybody. All right, everybody, welcome back. And now we're going to jump in and catch a couple of listener emails today. First one I'll start off with is Josh. He says, Josh up in Muskegon, Michigan. So Josh had reached out, and what he's trying to do is he's got kind of a narrow piece of land up there, and he's thinking about the idea of doing some beekeeping. In fact, I'll just read what he says right here. He says, I guess what I'm wondering is if you have any advice for keeping bees as much out of the way as possible, or if I were to only have 1 or 2 hives, how far away would you have to be, or would they have to be, to not notice the bees quite so much? And his follow-on question to that is also was wondering if you planned on doing a show talking about possible challenges for us less rural folks or the suburban type of folks. So I did answer this for Josh in an email, but at a real high level here, what I would say is for the most part, if people can't see the bees, they're not going to give you a hard time about them. They're probably not going to know they're there at all. What I recommend is do some creative painting with them as far as the colors go. And I've had the girls, do different things with, painting flowers or different things on them and just making it look like a little yard planter or a yard box. And if you do it right, it's kind of hard to even tell what it is. In general, there are kind of a lot of things you need to look at. And because of this and Josh's suggestion, I'm actually going to dedicate the entire next episode to discussing suburban beekeeping. I think it's a great idea that he came up with about that. And there are so many moving parts to it. And I think it really makes sense to just dedicate a full episode to it. So I'm going to go in and we're going to talk about codes and ordinances and considerations, things you should do, things you shouldn't do, things you can do to kind of keep yourself out of trouble, as well as a couple of ways for kind of objection handling, right? When someone says, oh, well, you shouldn't have bees here because of blah, 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 right? Maybe we'll kind of try and come up with a list of the top 5 objections that you're going to hear and the best way for you to address them. So we will dedicate an episode to that. But the short story kind of key takeaway is if people don't see it, they're not going to know about it. Now, I'm not telling you to break the law. If there is a law, a ordinance, a code in your area that says you can't have bees, then obviously I would advise you to not break the law. I want you to be responsible. I don't want you to get in any kind of trouble. So we're going to dedicate a full episode to that. Thank you, Josh. Good idea. And we will make that happen next week. We will also still have the interview with Kimberly next week as well. So both of those will go together. Next email is from Scott. And Scott is out in, I think it's Western North Carolina. I apologize if it's not Western Scott, but I know it's in here in North Carolina. But he was asking about an 8-frame nuke. He said, hey, I've got an opportunity to get an 8-frame nuke. What do you think? Is it too late in the season? What's your advice on that one? What I would say is if you were getting a traditional, nuke in an 8-frame box, right? A 4 or 5 frame nuke in an 8-frame box at this time of year, that's a tough hill to climb. If you're getting 8 full frames, that certainly makes things better, right? If you have 3 or 4 frames of brood, maybe 3 frames of capped honey, and a couple of frames of some nectar and pollen, but it's still an uphill battle to take a colony. And again, I don't know specifically where he is, not geographically. I mean, I know he's in North Carolina, but you have some areas that are very rural that have a lot of things in bloom right now where there's a good nectar flow. And that colony could fill, 15 frames full of honey in the next couple of weeks. Or they could be in the same situation that I am here at my house now and in the suburbs, where unless I continue feeding my bees, they will have nothing. They will go through everything that they gathered this spring. And by the time the fall flow kicks in a few weeks, they'll be pretty much dead. So I can't say for certain one way or another whether or not an 8-frame nuke can survive. That's just really based on what your geography and what actions you take and things that are going on where you are. But I would say if there is a flow on and you're seeing them returning with pollen, you're seeing frames being filled, they're drawing out comb, they're storing nectar, they're trying to cure the honey, that's great news. If you're not seeing that, or even if you're concerned that maybe there's no nectar flow, you're not really sure, drop a frame feeder in, drop a top feeder in, put some kind of a feeder inside the colony to give them something. If they don't take it up, if they're not using it at all and bringing it in and storing it, throw it away, right? That probably means they found something they like better that they would rather have versus the sugar syrup. But you just need to be really, really mindful that an 8-frame nuke or an 8-frame hive body, even if it's completely packed out today, that's a tough hill to climb for a colony to overwinter with that. Now, I've overwintered nukes before. I've overwintered small colonies. As long as they have enough resources available to get through the winter, that's really all that matters. The tough thing that we don't really know today is, are we going to have a mild winter with temperatures in the high 30s, low 40s, almost, 90% of the time with a couple of cold dips? Or are we going to have, like we had a few years ago, it was about 5 years ago, we had a winter where it stayed in the teens and 20s for like 3 weeks. I mean, I have a river that's 1,000 feet behind my house, and the river was frozen from bank to bank. So in a winter that is as harsh as that, those bees are going to need a whole lot more honey stored to make it through the winter. My suggestion to Josh was, I don't think it's the best idea, but can you make it work? Absolutely. And I just advised him to continue aggressively feeding, make sure that the feeders are staying full, and that's the best chance that you'll give them to make it through the winter. I would tell somebody with anything, whether it's beekeeping or anything else in life, you're better off to try and fail than to sit back and do nothing at all, right? So he's trying. He's going to give it a shot. I said Josh. I think just now, by the way, it was Scott. I'm sorry. But Scott, I would rather you or anybody else try and fail than to sit at your house and just wonder what it's like to be a beekeeper and do the thing that a lot of us get stuck in that loop of every year. Oh, I'll do it next year. I'll do it next year. I'll do it next year. I don't know. I mean, next year is not going to be here for everybody, right? Next year isn't here for my mom. It's not here for my dad. It's not here for my grandparents. So don't wait till next year. Do it today. Next email I have, and I'm probably going to botch this one a little bit. I apologize. I don't know if it's pronounced Jono or Jono. I apologize. New South Wales, Australia. I had to give you a mention because that's probably the farthest listener that's reached out to me. But he heard my discussion around varroa mites, and he had sent a link in an email making reference to Dutch honeybees that are resistant to varroa being imported into Australia to help guard against the pest. So that was pretty cool, interesting article. And I know that there are apiaries. I've had dialogue with a few of them myself who claim, we haven't had varroa in our apiary for 15 years, 20 years or whatever. I know that a lot of queen breeders and apiaries that have a lot of sort of biological and laboratory type resources available to them are doing a lot of work around studying mite resistant genetics and things like that. And there are several of them that they claim that they can pretty well eradicate varroa just through the genetics and the hygienic traits of the colonies. It's really, really a cool thing. I looked at some of the pricing on one of them, and it was just for their queen that is supposed to have these great genetics was pretty cost prohibitive for a guy like me. So, when I make about, $4 or $5 million and I have a bunch of extra cash laying around, maybe I'll buy a couple of those queens, but they were a little pricey. But anyway, thank you so much for the email. I appreciate it. Good to hear from you from down under there. And definitely please keep in touch. So folks, we're going to kind of start wrapping things up here, but a quick summary on the next episode. We're going to talk about the suburban beekeeper on the suggestion from Josh. We're going to go through all of that. We'll talk to Kimberly. We'll get our follow-up with her on the foul brood situation. We'll go back, hit a couple more listener emails, and the episode following that is going to be our winterization. So we're going to start diving in. It's one of those things where in my mind I see it as being a single episode. But when I look at all the dynamics to it and all the things that I think are going to be important, it might even be a 2 or 3 parter. I've got friends around the country. Some of them end up with 2-3 feet of snow around their hives. And it might not be a bad idea for me to bring 1 or 2 of those gentlemen on the line, have them talk about what they do. So we're going to extend this winterization piece out a little bit, but I do want to get onto it early because I recognize that folks up north are going to get colder before we are here down in the south. And I want to make sure we're staying on top of things. Folks, that's about all that I've got right now. I definitely appreciate everyone tuning in and listening. And again, I appreciate all your feedback. So please keep it coming. I'm going to be a little bit tied up here for the next couple of weeks. I'll be making tons of notes, but I've got some travel. I'll be out and about. I'll give you guys all the updates later. I don't want to bore you with it now, but thank you folks so much. Take care, and we'll look forward to catching up with you again real soon. Thanks.